So I've been hearing a lot about how people are trying to figure out what is Trump doing? What is the plan? And it seems like people are, listening for the ooh ah moments of the speeches that Trump give or Pete Hegseth give or the FBI director give. And I'm like, they told you exactly what they were going to do. So let's take a listen at his approach to the trade routes that I seen over 2.5 years happening because of what Russia was doing and what China was doing down in the Panama Canal. And then we began to get BlackRock to buy the Panama Canal, or at least 40% of it, because China was buying a lot of it. These are trade routes. So let's take a look at what Dr. Chang has to say. Now, this is once again Professor Chang. It's called Game Theory, and it is episode 21. This is his class, okay? And he has just read the entire speech that Pete had said to all the generals. Y'all remember that? Pete had said stood on stage like he was Homelander and told them everything. So he broke down the plan that Pete had said. No more rules of engagement. People in the service got to look a certain way. Women can't be in combat unless they pass a certain physicality test. And most importantly, the way that they made new rules for the rules of engagement. And I want to be very clear here. I just want to mention this before we really, really get started. The rules of engagement were not just for our nations that we're at war with. The rules of engagement are also for us here in America, just like with ICE. ICE is not just for immigration. ICE is for us. The AI buildings that they're building, they're not because AI is going to make so much money. You don't need that many data centers unless you're going to police everything that's on the internet for us. You understand? We're talking about turning this into a police state nation. And we need security to quell any uprising for this new rules of engagement. You understand that? So when you're voting for these AI data centers that they're claiming is going to be, in my view, taking your jobs, one. Two, to make your life easier. You don't have to work. But then how will you make money if you're in that field? And I'm talking about like the paralegals that are now obsolete because AI can do it just like that. Things like that. Any type of data research, your job's pretty much going to be gone completely. And they're going to have to pay for that service. But that is not going to mean that every human being in America is going to pay for an AI service. So there's no way they can sustain the amount of money that they're claiming it takes to build these AI centers without subsidized from the government. Why would the government subsidize that? Because it's going to be used as a tool for the government.
So if this ceasefire does not work and war continues, then we can expect in round two, the fighting will get much worse. Okay, so the Americans will start to target civilian infrastructure, including bridges, universities, reservoirs, power plants, desalination plants. Basically, it will destroy Iran's capacity to be a nation state. In response, the Iranians can destroy a lot more energy infrastructure, okay? So what it's done now, it's basically close off the Strait of Hormuz, but it can also close off the Red Sea, okay? And they can also target pipelines of natural gas. Basically, it can take offline 1/3 of the world's energy supply, and this would, of course, cause an economic depression, okay? Unfortunately, the national security strategy of the United States doesn't really care. If you just read the national security strategy, they already have factored this in, and they don't.
I don't know if you heard what he's saying because he's talking kind of fast. National security strategy. That's what Pete Hegseth gave y'all when he first tried to say, hey, we're going to run a different type of military, national security strategy. This is what we're talking about. This is the breakdown of what he didn't say verbatim.
Really care. So the idea is to prioritize strategic interests. And what this basically means is that America has the world's greatest navy. No one else comes close. And so all that they do is contain the world's choke points. And the world must bend to the will of America. Okay, does that make sense? If you want to trade, then you must depend on American generosity. Okay, so already what's happening is that this area, it's being closed off. But America has made moves to close off other areas as well. So America is exerting more control over the Panama Canal, okay? Basically, the Western Hemisphere is under something called the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine basically states that America can do whatever it wants in the Western Hemisphere. If you want to come here and trade, you have to go through us. China depends on a lot of resources from the Western Hemisphere, especially from South America. All right? Over here, something called the Lithium Triangle. This is Venezuela. Brazil provides China with a lot of agricultural products, soybeans, basically. And what Trump is saying is that, hey, in the future, you're going to trade over here, China, you have to go through us, okay? So basically,
and the soybeans, Donald Trump, he tariffed them, and that's why Brazil is providing them and not us, which the farmers are still upset about because he took their business. He didn't care. Trump did not care because all those soybean farms are going to be the new cities for Jeff Bezos, Elon, Peter Thiel. You get it? They've been buying up these soil field properties, which I gave you this video if you want to know about that.
Bargaining the Western Hemisphere from China. Over here is something called the Strait of Malacca. This is the most important choke point in the world, especially for East Asia, because as you can see, the Middle East, if it is to access South Korea, China, and Japan, it has to go through the Strait of Malacca. But guess what, guys? Everything goes through the Strait of Malacca. And this is important because the United States has signed a deal with Indonesia. So what we can expect is that America and Indonesia, their militaries will start to cooperate more and more. This is and the reason why is America is moving towards creating the first island chain. Basically, militarizing the first island chain in order to deter China, to embargo China, basically. What we're also seeing is that Japan is now rapidly remilitarizing. They're signing more agreements with Australia and other nations, okay? They're building more weapons. This is all being encouraged by the United States as a deterrent to China. Again, this is really important. America does not want to destroy China. It does not want to humiliate China. It wants to control China because the Chinese economy is still very strong and powerful, and America wants to make sure that the Chinese are buying more US dollars.
Buying more US dollars. I'm not going to play his whole, thing. You can go there and see Dr. Zhang, and I'm going to leave it up to you whether you want to see the whole hour-long class, but it is a beautiful presentation that tells you exactly what's going on right now and the future prediction that it's not going to work in the end. So you can go to his video and find out how that ends up. But just to give you the gist of the new way that Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump are trying to run our military to take over all of the canals, all of the straits in order to control the trade, and how you can see that is not going to work when you take in totality the rest of the world. Now, there are uprisings going on. You don't have to take my word for it. You can look it up. I'm just saying.
People are really, really angry right now at me. Like, listen, I'm just this random dude who has a YouTube channel online. I don't belong to any secret society. I don't have any power. I don't belong to any powerful faction. Okay, so it's very easy to like, you know, to like get at me. Okay, and I have like 3 young kids, and so I need to worry about my own personal safety now, right? Because I guarantee you, like, you know, I'm in Beijing right now where people don't really know me, but if I were to step on the streets of New York City or anywhere in Canada or Europe, I'm pretty sure I would get punched in the face. People are really, really angry right now at me. I can feel the hate in the virtual online. That's number 2. And number 3 is...
The professor then discusses his future plans and what his next goal is.
Given that I'm interested in intellectual speculation, I think the next step for me is to write a book, to really bring my ideas onto the page so I can look at it closely and refine it and really bring it out to market. And like, you know, like doing this series on game theory, there's so much demand for this, right? There's so much demand for, like, tell us the theories, tell us what's really going on, give us a theoretical framework for how we ourselves can develop a better understanding